My Haro Citizen Pro XL frame that I raced at the 2020 USA BMX Grand Nationals. Kind of show you what all goes in a pro's bike. So I've actually had a few requests. I didn't really expect. I just dropped that 5-part series of my lead up to Grands, which was so much fun. The amount of response I've had from all you guys about me being back on the circuit and being out on the track racing, it's really kind of lit a fire under me. So I appreciate all the love. I've literally read so many comments, and yeah, I've just been overwhelmed with the feedback to all this. So with that being said, hey, you might actually see me at some races next year because it definitely got me hyped up about it. Back to this. So I got a few requests about like a bike review post racing. After I had not many, I had like 3 requests. But I figured since I had the request to do it and maybe people want to see it, that reviewing their bike after a big race like Grands or whatever. I don't know. I actually don't know what videos are out there for this, so figured I'd just kind of do my own and show you guys what all is in my current race bike. My Haro Citizen Pro XL frame that I raced at the 2020 USA BMX Grand Nationals. So I'm gonna walk you through it and just kind of show you what all goes in to my bike, or pro's bike. We'll start at the top. Tangent dropped a new ODI grips. Nick Long actually had these grips on his bike, and I just kind of sat on his bike like, oh, I really like these. So I actually went and put brand new grips on right before the semi. You know, grips are like a super basic part for a bicycle, but at the same time, it means so much. Feel a good grip, and you just want those handlebars to feel good in your hands, you know? Anytime you get on a bike, throw your hands on like a set of uncomfortable grips, it's never that appealing to race with. So yeah, got the new ODI Tangent grips on a set of the Avian, what are these bars called? These bars are 6 back sweep, 4 up sweep, and they're an 8-inch rise bar. We got the mat components with all the sponsors that support the cause up there. We have an Avian 50mm stem. I'm a shorter guy. I run a 21-inch top tube, and it was a little longer, so I brought the stem back. Your average stem size is a 53mm, so I went down to 48, but Avian only makes like 40, 50, and 60mm, I think. So not a big deal. We're talking minor millimeters. Underneath, I have one, I think that's a 1/4-inch stack. I used to run my bars low, but past couple of years when I've stepped away from racing, doing a lot more freestyle stuff, it just feels a little better having higher bars. So I was trying to make my race bike actually match my dirt jump bike. I actually dropped that little lower 4 Grands, or for this whole lead up, because you don't have too high of bars, because when you're in the gate start, if your bars are up high, think of it like a deadlift. When I do coaching, I always explain a lot through how our movements in the gym. So you think about a deadlift pulling. If the deadlift is really high and your arms are here, you're not really gonna have a good pull. That's why you wanna not too low, there's obviously a happy medium, but you want them a little lower than really high because you want to have that leverage out of the starting gate. This brake lever is like carbon, and I just thought it was cool looking. So carbon lever is actually heavier than the aluminum one because there's so much carbon in there, but it looks cool and look good, feel good. We got the Avian carbon forks, tapered fork. So a lot of the bikes nowadays are going to a tapered head tube. It's just a little stiffer, a little stronger. Over the years, it was always 1 1/8, so now it's 1 1/8 up top, but 1.5 inches at the bottom of the steer tube. That's what makes it go out and like flare, so it tapers down to the base of the fork. Up front, we have, I run a Maxxis DTH. I actually go back and forth between a Maxxis DTH and a Maxxis Torch tire. The Torch tire actually has a groove cut in. I was part of the development of that tire years and years ago. A solid beam down the middle, and then on the side there's one good groove. So you think of it like when you're really banking in turns, you want to have something to grab. You want to have something to like scoop. So if you think of like a back wheel on a dirt bike, when they hit the throttle, it spins and the knobs are scooping into the dirt, right? That's what's excelling you forward. Same thing when you turn. When you're leaning, you got to have something to push on to really grip into that turn. That's why the Torch tire has that groove. I prefer a Torch in the front. I actually think I just didn't have a Torch 195 for the front. So that's why I have the DTH, and then I have a DTH in the rear, but I'll get to that and explain why I run the DTH in the rear. Rim, Avian carbon rims. You want to have light wheels because you can get away with like a heavier hub, but you want to have the outside of your wheels the lightest possible because it's that rolling resistance. If you have a heavy tire, heavy tube, heavy rim, it's like pushing a bigger gear. Not so much to the front tire, but mainly the back tire because that's where you're coming out of the gate. So you want a light tire, you want a light tube, you want a light rim, so that rotational weight is really light. Holding the rims together, we have titanium spokes. Same reason, we just want it light. Everything's on the outside, so everything's light. Down in the front hubs are obviously super basic. This is a Profile Elite hub. Not sponsored by Profile or anything. I've had that hub for literally probably 5 years, 5-6 years. It's just clean hub and just looks good. Being a fab guy and always doing a lot of stuff, a lot of hands-on stuff here in the shop, I like when you can see the machining of stuff and when it's just like kind of basic and just straight to the point. Back to the frame, so we have the Haro Citizen Pro XL 21-inch top tube frame. Basic, lightweight seat. A lot of kids nowadays run their seat slammed. But me getting older, when I sit on the gate, I don't like to get on the gate and stand up. I like to get on the gate, set up, and just sit down on the bike and just relax. You know, just relax. Wait for that gate starter. Now that I'm getting older, I've had 2 knee surgeries over the years. I've blown out both my ACLs. It doesn't really feel good to sit down on the seat and have my legs bent. So that's why I actually don't drop my seat anymore. I've had a few kids calling me out on that, on why the seat's high, but that's the reason. I run a little higher so when I sit down on the gate, my knees don't feel like they're gonna blow out the front. Down here with the Drivetrain. So for years, I ran 175 cranks. I dabbled with 180s for a bit. Being a short guy with a short inseam, if you have short legs, you're spinning bigger circles with those 180s. So it was really hard to ride a supercross track. You have good leverage out of the gate, but I might get to the kink on the supercross hill good, but once I got going, it was really hard to keep a good spin because the cranks are so long. It was taking that much more for my legs to kind of turn everything over. So with that being said, I rode 175s for years, and when I stepped away from racing, all my mountain bikes have 165s and 170s. So I actually put Avian 170s on my BMX bike so it felt the same. But when I started training for this comeback, I just really like how the 170s felt. It was a little harder to get out of the gate. I just dropped my gear a couple decimals. Luckily, Renan does decimal gearing. I feel like it kind of made up for it. Once I got going, my leg speed felt so much better. And that was one of the hardest things about my comeback is getting my leg speed. Around the track, I felt fine, but getting that leg speed and that explosion out of the gate was really hard to pick up. And I know it still didn't get to where I wanted it to be, but there's always time. I'm still working, so. I run the HT SX, like the BMX style. Clip pedals, springs are a little stronger, made for BMX. And there's so much movement. Sometimes you break form and don't have good pedaling technique. And that's when you want to have a good, strong clip pedal. And I did call and clip this weekend, but I think it was just heat of the moment. I kind of tucked the first jump a little too much and got sideways and unfortunately unclipped my foot. I'm running a Renan 46 tooth chain ring. I like the Renan chain rings, one, because it's like a really cool machine sprocket that I think just looks really nice. And then the teeth are a little fatter, so you get a lot more life out of a Renan sprocket. I mean, I've ran sprockets, one sprocket for a full season. I mean, I don't change gears that often, but the teeth are so fat when they start wearing. You got a lot more tooth to wear down, unlike some sprockets out there. They're just like a pointy tooth. Chain, I've actually ran this specific chain. Used to actually was on my last bike, and when I built this Haro, I put it on this bike too. This chain is probably a good 2 or 3 years old. It's the Shadow 332nd race chain. I couldn't recommend it anymore. It's half length, so you can get a little more precise with where you want your back end. Sometimes if you change the length, your back end might be a little longer than you want it, or a little shorter than you want it. With a half length, you can really fine tune where your back end sits. Because I always had shadow chains on all my freestyle bikes, so when they made a more narrow, lighter version for race, I jumped on it. Knock on wood, I've never had a problem with a shadow half length chain. All right, in the back, we have, I'm not sure what Onyx hub this is, but it's the big one. Again, not even a sponsor. Got this wheel set from someone and I wanted to try it out and I've always loved it, never had a problem. Same titanium spokes, Avian carbon rims. The Maxxis DTH 1.75. I run the 1.95 in the front and a 7.5 in the back. And let me tell you why I picked the DTH over the Torch. The DTH has like grooves in the top. So you think we're coming out of the gate, a lot of gates nowadays are super grippy, but sometimes you might go to a track that's got a little bit of a slick gate. I like to think it's biting just a little bit. It's still a fast rolling tire, but it's like a dirt bike. You got those knobs that dig into the dirt, and that's for your traction. If you have a smooth tire on a dirt bike and you rip the throttle, you're not really gonna get that much traction. So I like to think that's how the DTH works. So if I go to, there's a little dust on the gate, or even when you come out of a super grippy gate, straight to a dirt surface, I feel like you just have a little more bite with the DTH tire. As much as I love the Torch tire, and it's great if I'm at a track with like a super grippy heel all the way to the first jump, then you never have to really worry about that. But I don't want to change my tire from every track I go to, so I like to think this tire is just a great all-around tire. So again, that's the Maxxis DTH in the rear, 1.7, 20 by 1.75, and normally I have a Torch in the front, but this is the DTH 20 by 1.95. Maybe you're thinking, man, that bike is real shiny. Let me show you how I got that shine. Shine protection. No, but for real, this is actually Slick Products. They sent it to me. I think they mainly do moto stuff. They got bike stuff coming out, and they only sent me this Shine and Protect, and it's like you spray it on, and it kind of leaves a really waxy like coating on it. Dirt kind of bounces off of it, so this is the first time I've used it. Actually pretty pumped on how that, not to push a product on you, but if you want something that's just a good shine, this stuff is actually really good. Sprayed it on the back, and my rim feels really slick, so definitely don't want to spray it on your carbon rims for braking. But a lot of these bikes have disc brakes now, which is pretty cool. So, but yeah, if you need a little cleaner, it's good. You spray it, wipe everything off, and the bike looks brand new. And I am the worst about cleaning my bike. Oh, one more thing. This was another request that I had that people wanted to explain. I actually went over this on my Instagram. Cleat position. Growing up, I actually ran my cleat as close to my toes as I could, pretty much. I don't know why, that's just how I threw them on for the first time back when I first ever got clip pedals, and I stuck to it. As I went through my pro days, I learned, oh, if you pull your cleat back, it gives you more power out of the gate, but you lose spin. So think about it if you're on your toes. If your cleat is up front on your toes, it's easier to spin these circles. It's like having a shorter crank. So if you run your cleat to the back, your foot is scooting forward on the pedal. So think of that like a longer crank. So if your cleat is all the way back, it's like running longer cranks. You have more leverage and power out of the gate, but you might not have a good top end speed. You can get it, you can work on that, but for those first few track days, you're gonna feel that difference. So through all my pro days, I always ran it in the back, and then now that I've stepped away from racing, I actually scooted it back to the front, because when I'm on my mountain bike pedaling, you're just spinning circles. You're not really climbing that hard all the time, and you just want to feel comfortable, like you get a good spin in your pedals. So I scooted it up. Now that I went back to my BMX, I just said, you know what, that feels good. I'm gonna put my cleat back up, and my leg speed actually felt way better. Not where I wanted it to be, but my leg speed actually felt way better than it did in most of my elite days. And another thing about cleat position, you obviously want to put your cleat on and you want to do it straight with the lines they have, right? Well, some people, their feet might naturally kind of bow out, or the feet might be, what's that, pigeon-toed, where it comes inwards. Say, when I squat, like, you ever do a squat and you want to point your toes out a little bit? Not much, my feet are pretty straight, but when I clip in and the cleat's perfectly straight, I feel like it's pulling my foot, so I actually rotate the cleat a hair towards my big toe. That way, when I clip in, my natural position is, instead of just being perfectly straight, it's a little out like this. So if you're naturally like this, but your cleats are straight, you're always gonna have a little tension in one direction, which is gonna cause you to have more chances of coming unclipped. So, like I said, mine are pointed to my big toes just a little bit so my feet are out. So my feet being out, the cleat actually sits perfectly straight inside my clip pedal. So that's just something to think about. But you can tweak it just enough where you actually feel a little bit better on your pedals. Go back to pretty much where I started years and years ago. Put the cleats in. I just set the bike up for my own comfort. I was doing World Cups and stuff. I felt like I was always setting the bike up to what other people recommended. Oh, I heard this is better. I heard this is better. Well, this bike setup is literally like, how's my freestyle bike set up? How's my mountain bike set up? Those bikes are set up purely to how I like riding them. So that's how I built up this race bike, and by far the best riding bike that I've had. Not even like a shout to hard, oh, it's the best bike, which I do love this bike, but just the whole setup, the bars, the cleat position, the crank length, everything just feels really good, and I feel like I could take my race bike to the dirt jumps and I could go ride trails if I really want to, and it's not gonna feel really awkward. So I guess that's it. I hope that helps you with your bike build. I'll put the link in to show you the original build of this if you wanna learn some steps from that. If you've already made it this far in the video, if you're not subscribing, obviously subscribe, support the cause. More subscribers means I can make more of these videos. 2, take 2 seconds, leave some comments below. Let me know what you guys really want to see. I ride mountain bikes, ride Harleys, ride BMX. I still have so much love for it. I want to help you guys out more. So if there's anything in particular that you want to see, or if it's just stuff in my daily life, let me know. Comment it below and I'll make sure we make a video out of it. And I want this to be a channel that you guys can come to for help. It's not about being the best bike rider out there, but I want you guys to enjoy your life on 2 wheels, whether it's mountain bikes or BMX racing, whatever. Let me know. I'm gonna be here for you guys. So until then, thanks for watching. See you soon.